You are watching the Always Go Big Interview podcast. It's an interview with those who have big dreams. My name is Troy Ritchie, and I'm a future filmmaker with enormous aspirations. Join me in receiving inspiration from some of the most influential people with big dreams of their own. Learn how to overcome negative self-talk, remain focused, and accomplish everything you've ever dreamed possible by their example. If you ever wanted to be a part of someone before they broke big, now's your chance on the Always Go Big Interview podcast. Well, thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Always Go Big Interview podcast. I have Michelle Jackson on as a guest today. Michelle, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
Good. A beautiful background. Hopefully you're staying cool. This morning I was shooting baskets at 95 degrees.
Yeah, it's not too bad yet.
Okay, good, good. Well, so awesome to have you on here. You know, I talk about this a lot. With my wife, I talk about this a lot, is that when no one knows you're talented but you, it can kind of get frustrating. And for many, many years, I knew I could speak. I knew I could present. And my only opportunities was in a sales role. And I was walking at a chamber event, and there was a booth, big, giant green booth, Junior Achievement. And I stopped and started asking questions. And she said that I could speak. I said, really? You know, I've been looking for opportunities to get speaking and so forth. And she goes, well, would you like this opportunity? She told me about the program, which you'll have an opportunity to share. And it is, sometimes I feel it's given back more to me than I have speaking into these students. Do you get that feedback from other speakers of how much it benefits us when we volunteer with these students?
Yeah, we do. We get that all the time. Everything from just improving their own public speaking abilities. We actually have a lot of companies that encourage their team members to volunteer because they want them to get in front of an audience, which is the students in this case, and get better at public speaking, get better at fine-tuning that art and getting over their fears. Everything from that to just feeling good about what they're doing. They're changing someone's life for the better. And of course, they're also sometimes even learning some things when they teach the material themselves that are actually beneficial to their own lives. So
absolutely,
we've gotten that too. Wish I would have had this when I was a kid. I've heard that a million times.
Yes, that is. And just for the audience, I'm just going right into it, assuming everyone knows about Junior Achievement. Give a little, a brief description on what Junior Achievement is, maybe at the national level, and then kind of, what your role is for Southern Nevada.
Sure. So Junior Achievement overall is a national group. We have about 106 area offices in the United States. And then we also have a JA Worldwide, which is a Junior Achievement that is in other countries around the world. But the whole mission of Junior Achievement is to empower youth to their own economic success. And the way that we do that is we teach kids in 3 areas, and that is financial literacy, workforce readiness skills, and entrepreneurship. And so I think of it as we're teaching kids how to become prepared to be adults. So how to get that first job and where they fit in the work environment with their skills and interests aligned to for a job. And then when they get that first paycheck, how am I going to manage my money and not just spend it all or just leave it in a savings account and never invest a dime of it to make it grow and generate wealth. And then, of course, the entrepreneurship piece is about helping young people understand what it takes to start their own business and inspiring them to go ahead and start their own businesses.
And even at a very young age. So a little background about how you got started with Junior Achievement. Is it 4 years that you've been with the organization?
A little over 6.
Oh, a little over 6. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was actually with another nonprofit in our community and was kind of looking for a change and wanted to maybe take the next step in my career. I'd been a director of development for about 10 and a half years in my previous role. And this position opened up. And I had a gentleman that served on their board of directors, JA's board, that had served on the organization that I was with previously on their board of directors. And so I reached out to him and I said, this looks interesting. I'm thinking about applying. What do you think? I don't want to waste my time or your time if you don't think it's a good idea. And he said, no, you definitely should apply. So I applied, went through the process, and here I am over 6 years later.
And I remember that when I first off, I love talking to students, and it's an example. The reason I told that story at the beginning is it's an example of people that are watching this. The thousands that are watching with us right now. Just kidding. There's like 2, but there will be thousands later. The point that I'm trying to make is that even though the audience is watching, talented, you can do some things, you just don't have the opportunity. You don't need an American Idol. You can go out and volunteer and really speak into this. So I remember when I first asked you, I said, hey, would you guest on this Always Go Big interview podcast? And your response was, well, I don't know if I'm going to bring value. And why I think you bring value is because of the mission of junior achievement and kind of, school. I'm not going to go bashing school. They don't teach the things that you guys teach. And I know if I can get one person, I don't care where they live, you got a worldwide organization, to go to their website by the end of this and volunteer, because it's virtual, and they start speaking lives of students, and this is a tremendous success. But when did you realize you applied for the job, you got the job? When did you realize, wow, this is special? When was that moment?
It was probably about 6 months into the job, and one of our programs that we do in Las Vegas that is available nationally is called Finance Park. Mm-hmm. And at Finance Park, the kids have about 12 lessons that they do before they come for a field trip to the Finance Park location. And they become an adult for the day. They're given a random life scenario with a job, a certain income, a credit score. They might be married. They might have kids. Mm-hmm. But when I saw the kids going through that experience, and I realized that they were having the opportunity to step foot into being an adult for a few hours and comprehending at 14 to 17 years old what that's going to truly mean from a financial standpoint, and how all the decisions that they're going to make in their life are going to impact, where they end up being as an adult, and how those decisions all, culminate into where you end up being. And that was when it really, I understood the impact and the amount of change that could be had on a young person's life by participating in programs like Finance Park that Junior Achievement has. I really saw light bulbs going off for kids. Like, they suddenly understood why they were told, no, you can't have, that new game that you want. And they were telling you that, or, oh my gosh, I'm not having any kids ever because they're so expensive. And so I was like, yay.
Now, did that add pressure, or was it more like blood in the water, and you just were like, okay, I'm going to go after this? Like, what was that moment for those first 6 months?
That made me see that we really need to help more kids be able to experience these programs, because really every child to be able to experience them, whether they come from a family that has no money or they come from a family that's really wealthy, they need to understand how their decisions not only impact them, them today, but it's going to impact them for years and years to come. Mm-hmm. And, I like to jokingly tell people that doing the Finance Park program in particular is kind of like a form of birth control, because we have so many kids that decide, they see that there's a big cost to having children. It's not just about diapers and formula. It impacts every area of their life. And and nobody's telling them that. They're having to experience it themselves. And I think that's a huge, huge game changer.
Sure. And just for those that have seen this in their feed and have clicked on to it, are talking. My name is Troy Ritchie, and this is the Always Go Big interview podcast, where we interview folks that are either before they broke big, or they are in a part of something big. And absolutely, Michelle fits within that, being a part of something big. So how about like volunteers? Now, I would imagine I coach folks on video. You've seen me work on video and talking to folks that may have doubts about their abilities. And I'll never forget that first visit at the booth. My first question to, I think it might have been Shanice, was, what if I suck? And she said, it doesn't matter. I'm sure there are people that, that maybe have negative thoughts, especially with high schoolers. There was a moment that I came in, and I have a rule when I'm speaking: roofs up, hoods down. And so this idea of a hoodie, because they might have their headphones inside,
Yeah.
so I just a general rule, I tell the students, hey, hoods, roofs up, hoods down. It's kind of fun. And I walked in, and this dude looked like a linebacker in the NFL, right? And he's sitting in the back row, and he's just gruff, and he's like I don't know if he's a bull at school or whatnot. He was slouching, and that's another one of my expectations is no slouching, sit like a king. And he's slouching there with his hood on. And I'll never forget that split second of, do I really say what I always say? I did it, and he took his hood down, no problem, right? What about volunteers? What do you tell them when they're like, I don't know if I can do this. My last experience with the high school was traumatic. They weren't listening to me. Tell us a little bit about kind of some of the coaching that you do.
Well, I think that's one thing that's really positive about junior achievement is we have programs that start in kindergarten and they go all the way to high school. So, for someone that maybe is intimidated a little bit by the older students, we have opportunities in all grade levels. So, but I hear it both ways. I mean, I hear people that they'd rather work with the older kids because of the conversations that they can have. They can really get into the meat of different things with them. And little kids are cute and they're fun, but you're not going to have some of the more grown up, I guess, conversations with them that you can have with someone that's 16 or 17. So I think that's probably the first thing is, we have a lot of options.
Yeah.
If you're totally intimidated by the little kids, then we've got older kids. If the older kids intimidate you, you can start with the younger kids. But the biggest thing is everybody has a story to share. Everybody has a story about, especially once they hit a certain age in life, you've got a story to share about good decisions and bad decisions that you've made along the way. And your ability to share those things alongside Junior Achievement's awesome curriculum, that's what is impactful for these kids. Because they're not hearing it from mom or dad or their teacher, which they've kind of become tone deaf to. They're hearing it from someone that, like, why are you here? Oh, you're here for free? Nobody's paying you to be here? And that always shocks kids.
It does. And, I think that, so what I'm understanding is that if someone comes in right now, you guys need volunteers, whether it's Southern Nevada, whether it's all across the country, you guys need volunteers. And if someone is really nervous, you have the flexibility to put them in a position where maybe it is the younger folks and maybe, okay, so you're a little, kind of like this. So we'll put you in with high school and, so you have that ability that you can kind of place them where they need to. Yeah,
definitely.
That's awesome. And then, so let's bring up the elephant in the room. So oftentimes I say I'm the elephant in the room, but for this case, COVID, right? COVID, I would imagine you're not getting a lot of sleep lately. School's getting ready to start up. We had our training yesterday. How has COVID impacted the upcoming school year? Let's say good and bad, an example.
Sure. So I would say the bad is that, in a lot of areas around the country, the kids are not in a physical classroom. And that presents a lot of challenges for learning. Our son started school this week and we're experiencing those challenges alongside everybody else. So I would say the challenges is getting volunteers in the classroom and getting volunteers still in front of kids. On the positive side, we do have a great organization nationally, and they've done a phenomenal job starting in March. They were already doing it before March. We were already working on it, but we have taken nearly every single junior achievement program to a virtual platform now where it can be delivered by a volunteer over a Zoom call or a Google Meet or Microsoft Teams, whatever the platform is that that school district allows. And so we're still able to get volunteers into the classroom virtually in front of students, presenting our curriculum, and the students getting to hear from that executive or that small business owner from our community.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing that I'll tell anyone that's watching, and for just a reminder, we're talking to Michelle Jackson, President and CEO of Junior Achievement Southern Nevada, a global organization, and she's responsible for this area. My name's Troy Ritchie. This is the Always Go Big interview podcast. What I love about Junior Achievement is you give so much in the study guide or in the guidebook to guide us as volunteers. It's not just go tell your story. And you leave, like the folks that would monitor me never said, hey, you missed this bullet point on the script. That you have the kind of this dynamic where you give the structure, and then we have the freedom to kind of go in and out of that structure. And so I just think that is a huge advantage to some of the other volunteer programs that just say, hey, go in and do what it is that you do. No, you guys have a clear mission. And what is the standard? Is it like 6 weeks, 7 weeks?
So it's typically at the high school level, it's more robust. So the students are usually doing between 6 and 7 lessons for whatever program it is that they are participating in. And JA has over 24 plus different programs that are available. In elementary, it's a little bit less. So the programs are usually a maximum of 5 lessons. Okay. So it's typically anywhere between 5 to 7 lessons on the high end for the older students. And the time commitment is anywhere from 30 minutes for, say, kindergarten, where you've got short attention spans that you're dealing with, all the way up to about an hour for the older students. And yes, it can happen over, a 6-7 week time period, but sometimes it can happen over a week where you're virtually entering the classroom for an hour on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And so there's a lot of options, and I think that's what makes it great too. It makes it good for the educators. It makes it good for the volunteer, because you can really find what's going to work for both people participating and kind of leading it and putting it together.
Yeah. What I used to do is, because I was middle school and high school mainly, and what you said at the beginning is very true feedback from volunteers. I had always started with just the entrepreneurship. I'm an entrepreneur. I can teach that. And then I think you guys were in a pickle with financial. And so I stepped in and did that. And I learned so much and used myself as a poor example to the students as well, which was nice. And so it would always end with me bringing in donuts and orange juice and things like that, coffee for the students. What are some other things that volunteers have done that are real creative, outside the box, that you can share?
Well, I think probably the most creative has just been investing their time with the students and sharing their own stories. We have some people, a couple of them that are on our board. We have one gentleman that he's now very high up in Starbucks, and everybody knows who Starbucks is. And he actually came here from another country, and his family was extremely poor. Just a single mom, him and his couple of siblings. And when he shares his story about what he was able to accomplish in his life, it's very inspiring for the students, especially our students of color, who are looking for someone that looks like them, that has succeeded and has gone above the odds. And so I would say that's probably the most important thing. As far as creativity in delivering the programs, I think it's the volunteer and their willingness to share their backstory that makes it the most creative for the kids.
Yeah, so it's different all across the board, I guess.
Yeah.
So what if someone is seeing this and they're curious and they Google Junior Achievement and they're like, wow, this is crazy, and they just don't have any time to get involved volunteering? Is there a way they can help support Junior Achievement?
Sure. Of course, we're just like any other business, and we need financial contributions to run and operate. One thing I'm very proud about with junior achievements across the country is if you take a close look at our operations all over the country, we're pretty small. So I always
Mm,
say we're lean and mean.
mm,
We don't have a lot of people overhead because we are utilizing thousands and thousands of volunteers that we train. Um,
mm.
our office is a great example. I have 8 people on my team, and we reach right around 20,000 students in our market every year.
Mm.
And those 8 people, we work very hard to recruit volunteers and raise the money that we need. So
Yeah.
it's a good place to donate your money, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And then this is off script question. But if someone's watching this and they really like junior achievement and they really like you, yet they live in Wisconsin, are you guys opening up where because it's virtual, you're considering volunteers from outside the area?
We are. We would definitely help you find your junior achievement office in your area if there's one nearby.
Yeah.
But we would certainly work with somebody that doesn't have a junior achievement office in their state or
Mhm.
their city
Yeah.
to give them an opportunity to volunteer with us for sure.
Yeah.
But we would always try to give you that opportunity to work in with students that are right in the same market where you're living, if that's possible.
Perfect. Perfect. And then what is the steps to a volunteer? I can speak from experience that it does not take a lot of time. I mean, you have to put some effort into it. You can't
True.
because of the guide, you have to spend, I would say, on average an hour. My routine was an hour prep, and then I think the class is 15 minutes or whatnot, and I always added um, either jokes or whatnot. And the beauty of telling jokes to high schoolers is all of them are bad. You just to try. You're not a stand-up comic, and I think that they appreciate the effort. My line is, "I'm a dad, so I'm going to tell you a dad joke," and then nobody laughs, and I'll say, "That wasn't any funny," and then the teacher will kind of go, "Oh yeah, it's kind of funny," and they'll give a curse laugh, whatever. What is it from your? What are some? If someone is thinking that they don't know if they have time, yet they want to enhance their speaking skills or whatnot, what do you do when you talk to a volunteer that's on the fence? And you need them, so you're going to kind of hey, come on, you can do it. What are some things that you do say to encourage them?
Well, the biggest thing is, and especially when you're teaching the elementary school kids, people that have real bad stage fright, or they think, I don't know any of this, I'm going to mess it up, I'm going to say the wrong thing. They don't know. They have
Hmm.
no idea that
Hmm.
they have no idea you made a mistake. They have no idea that you
Right.
didn't, quote word for word out of the guidebook,
Yeah.
how to explain what a bank is or a credit card or what a credit card does.
Hmm.
Um, they don't know that. And the other thing I think is great too is, we find we have a lot of volunteers that they like to teach the same few grade levels, and they get really comfortable with those. So, if you decide you really like third graders, then we'll keep putting you back in a third grade class if that's where you want to stay. And you're going to know our material better than we will after you teach it a few times, because you really do become an expert around it, just like with any other thing in life that you're practicing and you're doing over and over.
Yep. Yep. I call it the power of suck. Uh, and it's funny. The other volunteer program that I'm a part of, it's through the same, Clark County. Hold on, I've got some windows popping up here. It's through the same Clark County School District, and they found out about my title the other day, actually, and they said, "Yeah, the school district's not going to go for it." And I said, "What do you mean? I've been doing it for the last 2 years." But I firmly believe in the power of suck, in that when you aren't good at something and you're doing it, you influence greater than someone who is very good at what they do, because the audience looks at them and says, well, obviously I can't do what they're doing because they're amazing, right? But yet if you're stumbling, bumbling, yet you're still doing it, and you're on week 3 and the first 2 weeks were just like, and you push through and you're at week 3 and 4 and 5 and you finish, there's so much power and influence in that because of your weakness and because you're not that talented. And so that's one of the things that I do to encourage. So we, you talked about a lean, right? A lean staff, lean group, yet 20,000 students. And how many volunteers have you seen come and go over the years? What's that number? You gave it to me. I just have, it slipped my mind.
Oh, so on average, we have right around 1,000 volunteers every year, just here in Southern Nevada.
That is amazing. And so it's another statement to show that if you have policies and procedures and pay attention to the details, you can run a lean organization with volunteers that come in. And the one thing that I do remember about the initial meeting, because you don't let anyone just come in and speak, right? I mean, you talk to them, you kind of vet them a little bit, not in a scrutinary way. I just remember you want to find, and maybe it goes back to what you said. It's to match them with the audience or the students, right? Maybe that's what the purpose is. But I do remember you guys asking me a lot of what is it that you're passionate about and what is it that you want to do. But like when you think about the big dream, this is always go big interview podcast. People ask me all the time, can I be a guest? And my first response is, what's your big thing? What do you mean? I help marketing companies do blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah, everyone does, right? What is your big thing? And so sometimes there are guests that I'll have to politely decline because this is a show about doing something big. Obviously, you guys are already doing something big. What are some goals that you have ahead? You can talk about goals even before COVID or because of COVID or whatnot. But what are some most pressing goals that you have that maybe audiences that is watching can be a part of?
Well, I would say I'm gonna answer that in a couple different ways if you're okay with that, Troy.
Please. Yeah.
So first, the big goal, the big vision is we want to reduce the amount of people in our community that need immediate needs. So the amount of people that need just the basics to live: food, shelter, clothing. That is really the overarching goal of junior achievement, is to change the trajectory of the whole community. So right now we have anywhere between 64, probably pushing closer to 68%, if not more, due to COVID, students in our community that qualify for what's called free and reduced lunch. And that's a direct measure of the poverty level of the household that student is living in. That's huge. Over half of our students in Clark County need help with the cost of eating lunch every day. That needs to change. And so that's probably our overarching goal, is just to truly change the futures, not just for these kids individually, but for the community as a whole, so that we have a community that's full of people that are ready to join the workforce and that are good at managing the resources that they have, whatever the size of those resources may be. On a more immediate goal, I guess, the way that we foresee obtaining that, reaching those students and really changing the trajectory of this community, is through a couple of programs that we do, that we kind of see as the cream of the crop of programs. And that's our Finance Park program. And it's another program called BizTown. And Finance Park, like I told you earlier, is for 7th through 12th graders. And it's where they get to become an adult for the day through their own, managing their own money and experience in their life. BizTown is for a younger audience. So that's typically 5th graders. And they run a simulated city for the day where they become employees, they become CEOs of businesses, or the chief financial officer of the bank, and they take on the role of being an employee and a consumer, and they get to see what it's like to have a job. They get to see what it's like to have responsibilities of having a job, and what it takes to earn a paycheck.
Yeah.
So through those two programs and having a permanent home for those programs where students can come year round, junior achievement will be able to come close to reaching at least 84% of all students in our community every year at their grade level. Right now, even though 20,000 students sounds like a lot of students a year, it's really only about maybe 9 or 10% of the whole marketplace, because we have a huge school district here.
That's right.
So in order for us to reach more kids, those two programs are the way that we envision that we're going to do that, and how we will get to the bigger goal of really changing the outlook of our whole community from a financially stable position.
Yeah. The one thing I love about that, and I write about this in my book, is that you're giving them fish before teaching them to fish, right? You're not just saying that, hey, this free and reduced lunch, this mindset of whatever that percentage was, you need to do this with your finances better. No, you're actually giving them clothes and giving them tangible needs, which adds credibility. And then you go into your finance park and your business for a day kind of thing. And I think that combination is what is most impactful. Well, this is fantastic. I'm excited about, and so there's plenty of time for this school year, right? For people to volunteer and to go to, where would they go if they want to volunteer and they live in Nevada or they don't live in Nevada? Where do they go to get involved?
So you can find us by Googling us for sure. But our website here in Southern Nevada is JASNV, so jasouthernevada.org. If you don't live here in Southern Nevada and you're interested in getting involved, I would recommend you go to our national organization site, which is just ja.org.
And make sure
you can find us through there too. So
yeah. And anyone that does that, make sure you say you saw it on the Always Go Big Interview podcast. Well, awesome, Michelle. Thank you so much. You've been such a tremendous guest. I will let you get back to your day. Remember, in business and in life, never go small, always go big. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.